You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
Mission Log Prodigy, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. Supplemental. Season 1 Blu-ray, Episodes 1 through 10.
Welcome into another episode of Mission Log Prodigy, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. I'm Norman Lau.
And I am Charlene Schmidt. Just like on our flagship Mission Log podcast each week here on Mission Log Prodigy, we discuss every episode of the animated series and discover what makes each of them special, and we see if there's any morals, meanings, messages, and what we have learned. But Prodigy Season 1 is over. We already did those shows, but we promised we would keep going, and we are doing that. We have a lot more coming up, and the first thing we're tackling now that we've interviewed the Hagemans and Ben Yvonne, we're going to do something a little different and do a product review for this thing.
There it is.
There we go. The Prodigy Blu-ray.
Yep. This is like any of our other podcasts. This show is produced for both YouTube and as a regular podcast. So be sure to engage the like button and the subscribe button to Mission Log Prodigy on the Roddenberry Entertainment YouTube channel. And just a side note, because we are going to be featuring a lot of what's happening in the product world as they are released. We're going to be showing those here on the video portion of the show. So if you haven't seen us yet, make sure you visit us at Roddenberry Entertainment. You can listen to us on podcasts.roddenberry.com, on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and all your podcast catchers du jour, or wherever you listen to your Roddenberry podcasts. And you can also follow us on Twitter at Mission Log Prodigy, at ML_Prodigy, to keep up with what we're doing in this kind of holding period between the end of season 1, which is already done, and then the beginning of season 2. Because in the whole middle portion of this, we are going to be talking about, like Char just flashed on the screen, the moment you've been waiting for. We're going to be talking about the
Vanna White thing's not working.
No, there it is. The very first DVD/Blu-ray release for Star Trek Prodigy, which is half of the season. So this is the DVD/Blu-ray, and I'm just going to refer to it as Blu-ray because that's what we have, Char.
Yeah. Okay.
The
Fair.
Blu-ray for season 1, but episodes 1 through 10. And what we're going to be focusing on this show, we're going to talk a little bit about the packaging, kind of like some of the bonus content, and then we're going to get into the very best part. Well, the very best part are the first 10 episodes, but we're going to not cover those in review. We've already done those.
That's done. Yeah.
We've already reviewed those. But
the next best thing.
The 75 plus minutes of bonus added material, special stuff. Yeah, that's what you're really looking forward to watching when you get
heck
this
yes.
set. Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I'm a real junkie for behind the scenes kind of stuff. I want to hear about how the show is made, how certain things came to be. So I live for these kind of special features. It is the only reason why I will buy a physical disc. Yeah, but I will for things that I love like this.
That's a really interesting discussion that I've had with several people on Facebook and on Twitter about like, why should I get this set? It's only the first 10 episodes. And is it kind of like double dipping if the next 10 come out? And I said, well, you can think about it that way, or you can think about that the $17.99 to $19.99, however you're going to pay for it on Amazon or on eBay or whatever, wherever you're going to get it, Target, Walmart. That's worth the price, I believe, of the bonus material. That you can't get anywhere else, because that's the great thing still about physical media, is that most of the time, 9 times out of 10, you can't get this on the streaming platform. You can only get this in the physical version.
Yep.
Right?
They won't offer it. And I do think it's worth that price. Plus, it shows CBS and Paramount, you support the show, you love the show, you're throwing them some money. And yes, I know we also subscribe to the streaming app, but the more we can show people that this is something in demand, the more they're going to give to us.
And this is an interesting kind of a full circle show right now. So one of the reasons why I got involved with, John Champion and how our friendship came to be is I used to watch John on a show called DVD Geeks. Way back. Way back.
Yeah, way back.
And DVD Geeks, they used to like John and his partners and the people that produced that show, they always focused on the bonus features, because we all know the movies that we love. It's the bonus features that, when DVDs were kind of like the burgeoning platform, they were always saying, okay, how can we compete against, VHSs and the multiple copies that people have of those formats? And they're like, well, we have enough room to squeeze like all of this great extra information that no one has seen yet. And that's what, in a roundabout way, that's what this is now. So
Nice.
Ooh, look, my computer's talking to me.
Oh, computer, stop.
Exactly, computer stop. So we're going to go a little bit through kind of the packaging and kind of like the inserts and kind of like the bonus features that you get from a physical standpoint. And then we're going to get into the really, really special part of it, which is there is a sticker on the front. Char, if you could show us the Blu-ray again. So there's a sticker on the front that says over 75 minutes of exclusive special
features.
Does
not want to cooperate.
And it is true. There are over 75 minutes of special features. Technically, there are 77.05 minutes of special features.
You clocked it.
I did.
Nice.
Plus or minus maybe 5 seconds. So we're there. We got what was promised. And we also got some other really interesting things. So we have a beautiful liner package with the key art, the key marketing art that we've seen so far on posters and on Nickelodeon. And if you indulge me, Char, I'm going to put on my Captain Kirk reading glasses. These were a gift, by the way, by Dr. McCoy.
Oh, of course. Well, you're allergic to Retinax. It makes sense.
I am allergic to Retinax 5. So I'm going to read the liner notes that come in from the on the inside of the cover for the Blu-ray. And I'm sure the DVD is the same way as well. I'm going to look my very best to be as studious as possible. So we have 2 discs. This is a 2-disc set, and 7 episodes were on the first disc plus one of the special features, and then 3 episodes were on the second disc plus the remainder of the special features. So disc 1 contains episodes 101 and 102. That's Lost and Found Part 1 and 2. Episode 3, Starstruck. Episode 4, Dreamcatcher. Episode 5, Terra Firma. Episode 6, Kobayashi, along with the special features segment covering Kobayashi, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. And then episode 7, First Contact. Now that's on one disc. Then disc 2, you have episode 108 or episode 8, Time Amok. Episode 9, A Moral Star Part 1. And then episode 10, A Moral Star Part 2. Now that's where, the first 10 episodes, or the first arc, if you will, are covered in this particular set. So
right.
Pretty cut and dry stuff.
Yes. And then all the extras.
But wait, there's more.
Yeah.
So there is on the inside of the clamshell case, when you open it up, it comes shrink wrapped with 1, 2, 3, 4 glossy cards.
Yes.
And these might show up. So
hopefully.
That's not bad. They actually kind of do show up.
There we go.
You have 4 glossy cards, one of which the cover card has the majority of the crew on there. You have really nice hero shots of Dal, Zero, Jankum, Murph, of course, in the corner, sticking his head up in there, Gwen and Rock Talk. And one of the other cards, which is the next card, depending on how they've been packed, I had a nice hero shot of Dal, RL.
That's what I got too.
The next shot after that is Gwendala.
Yes. A gal knows what she wants. That is correct.
Yep. And then the last card, kind of like the anchor card, would be hologram Janeway. Yeah.
Come on, Janeway. Come online. There you go.
So I'm going to read, because this postcard actually leads right into like the very first special features segment that we're going to talk about. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of a tease, because on the cover postcard on the back, there's a little blurb and it says Trek Tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And it says here, the backbone of every Star Trek is its philosophy of acceptance, exploration, and the pursuit of knowledge. Star Trek Prodigy showcases a diverse crew from different backgrounds and perspectives, unifying in a desire to be part of something larger than themselves. Starfleet. Starfleet is the exploratory and diplomatic representative of the United Federation of Planets. Starfleet is on a mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, and to boldly go where no one has gone before. And with that, wow. What do you think about the packaging so far, Char? I mean, when you opened up your disc set, do you feel like that, this is money's worth well spent?
I mean, I'm not a big junkie for things like the cards necessarily, but I do think it's a cute idea for the kids because they might be more into that. I am much more interested in what's in here.
Yeah.
On this second disc, especially, is these special features. I dug right into that. I just went for it. Popped in disc 2 and started playing the features.
Was this one of those occasions where you couldn't wait for, say, did you order it through Amazon?
Yes, I did.
So did you have kind of like the Amazon Pavlovian response of the gets dropped off at the door, and then all of a sudden Spider Sense goes off, you grab it, you open it, and you just clear your day?
Pretty much. I knew it was going to arrive the next day, and so I cleared my afternoon to make sure I had enough time so I could watch it all.
Check, 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 and check. So there are so many special features, especially on the second disc. And
Yes.
We're going to go into kind of like the nuances and some of the details in that. But I just wanted to go over the different sections and the time stamping, the time frames of these sections, because
They're
they are
interesting.
really, really nice. They're long. Some are longer than others, and I think in the right way. So the very first special feature we have on the second disc in the menu is called Trek Tradition, and it's about 11 minutes long. Then is the Prime Directive, which is about 3 minutes, 10 seconds. Then we get into what's called the Protostar Pack, which is subdivided into a bunch of other different categories covering mainly the characters. And this is about 28 and a half minutes long, 28 minutes and 30 seconds. So you have different segments: creating character, Dal RL, Gwendala, Jankenpog, Rock Talk, Murph, Zero, and Hologram Janeway. And we're going to get into that just in a second. And then you have the Protostar, which is about 13 minutes and 40 seconds, covering pretty much all of the design work that went into the Protostar. Well, I should say all of the design work that gets fit into 13 minutes and 40 seconds.
Yes,
Right.
that's fair.
And then we have Gadgets and Gear, which is about a little over 17 minutes. So there are some really nice segments here. We're going to jump into them right now, starting with Trek Tradition. We're going to have some takeaway notes and some takeaway comments. Char, I'd love to start with you.
Sure.
And we're going to go kind of like segment by segment. If you don't really have anything specific that you found in it, then I can talk about it a little bit. But
Sure.
we haven't really discussed this yet, you and I, which is strange because we usually do. But I think we've been so excited to get to recording that we just wanted to save our notes, for right now.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we did. Is let's just discuss it on the show. Unlike every other week that we do this. But hey, you know what? Sometimes you got to change things up. It keeps us on our toes.
Mm-hmm.
So I do appreciate that the extras, much like the show itself, starts like from the basics, the very bottom up, square one. You have to start from the very beginning because not everybody watching this show knows exactly about things like Gene Roddenberry and the fact that Rod Roddenberry is Gene Roddenberry's son, and that the fact that there's more, like it started as like Star Trek started as sort of like the wagon train to the stars, like that whole genesis of becoming a show with more social commentary and hopeful future and how that all came to be. Most of us who have been fans for years know this already, but we have to have this stuff here for those who don't.
Right. I think it was really responsible for in this segment that you need to start slowly and build, which is kind of the whole process of Prodigy, where you start slowly and build and let kind of the audience, and in this case, the young adult audience, and especially some children, like earn the trust of why they're watching this, and who are they watching it with, and what are they learning about it, and then, who are the characters, and it all kind of like organically grows from there. I really liked how they featured a few key individuals or people in this segment. And obviously you would have the Hagemans, you had Dan and Kevin. Then you have Alex Kurtzman talking about why he wanted them particularly in this project. And, there's a huge history of like the Hagemans, and they're not in this segment, but, in general out there in the on the internet about their quality of and body of work with Troll Hunters and Ninjago and the Legends of Arcadia series. So knowing that, I think that there's a great pedigree for them to be, the kind of the ambassadors, for the next, Star Trek. And then, of course, you have Rod Roddenberry talking about why this show is important and how it builds on the foundations of his father Gene's, original vision. And I love how in this segment, he talks about how his father really would have liked Prodigy.
Yeah, right. I totally agree. I think Gene would have loved the fact that there is a show designed for audiences young and old alike to watch the show together. And I also appreciated the little part of the segment that talks about some more personal stories about watching the show with their kids or watching Star Trek with their parents. And that's how they got started, because I did too.
Yeah.
The tense Trek tradition, right?
Right.
And this show is perfectly designed for that. And so, yeah.
And I think that's a really nice stage, for the next segments that are coming up, because in the Trek tradition, you have the understanding of what is Starfleet, what is Star Trek, who are these people that are going out into space? Why are they important? Why should we care about them? And then why should we invest ourselves? Returning week after week after week. Of course, time is precious. And especially today, there are so many different ways that, entertainment's competing for your minutes instead of products competing for your dollars, the way it was and the way it used to be. But I think that focusing on the next segment, the Prime Directive, I think that's really important, because the Prime Directive is, in fact, the base DNA of why Star Trek is Star Trek. I mean, opposed to any other science fiction, there's a reason why Starfleet's important. And I like that they tackled this in this way. What did you get out of this one, Char?
I do agree with what you just said, which this is like one of those North Star things about, okay, what does Starfleet do? What is Starfleet about? Prime Directive is a big part of it. And I appreciate that you can see the text clearly and read it maybe for the very first time. Yeah. Which was very cool. And it's not just this, though. I mean, there's things like, I remember Rod was talking about what does IDIC mean and stuff like that. These are big, important themes that Star Trek lives and dies by.
Right. And it's nice that we're having several people pop up, during the course of these special features that work behind the scenes, with the production. In this particular segment, we have Jack Rossi, who is the digital prop designer for this world. And it sounded like it was a daunting task of trying to take kind of something that is abstract as the Prime Directive, because as we all know, as older Star Trek fans, I should say, as we all know about the Prime Directive, it kind of serves the purpose of the story as opposed to an overall general purpose of something chiseled in stone. Well, technically, because of First Contact and how it was used to show Dow's failure in terms of meeting with this new species and breaking the Prime Directive and breaking Janeway's trust, having it turned into an actual physical construct was something that I think we've never seen in Star Trek before. And Jack Rossi certainly admitted to that. So he's like, how do we do this? How do we turn something that now people can enlarge on their computer screens, or take screenshots of and really dissect? Okay, now this thing's actually like, the Constitution. We can read it and we can hold you to it.
It's a living, breathing document. I can't believe after 50-something years, this is the first time we have a real, actual copy of the Prime Directive.
Yeah. It would be the Primus Directive now.
That is pretty crazy.
All right. So that was really good. It was a little short, probably the shortest of all of the special features, because now, probably for the bulk in the room, of this show, we're going to go into the largest segment of the special features, and rightfully so. It's creating character. It's the Protostar pack, because it's all about how the actors were hired and why, for the voice acting, for the character design, for the character creation, and the symbiosis of putting together talent and animated character to bring this show to life. There are so many different ways we can go. So maybe we should just kind of go in order of how it was broken down, like in the menu. So let's talk about creating character. And what did you get from, when you were watching this?
Well, I did enjoy things like how Ben mentions the eyes, especially because that is such an important thing about Prodigy and how expressive they all are. I mean, everybody's got such a distinctive look that even if you're halfway paying attention, or if you're looking from your peripheral vision, you know who you might be looking at on the screen, and things like close-ups, the way that captures emotion. And that's all really cool and very intentionally designed into this show. So that was really cool.
There's something I've seen it, or I've seen it referenced before when it comes to animation, that there's this what they call the Matt Groening effect with, say, The Simpsons, where you can tell which character of The Simpsons is who because of just the sheer shape of their silhouette. And I think that when we saw, Prodigy like advertised for the first time, all these different body styles and shapes can identify these characters at a moment's notice. You know who Zero is. You know who Jankum is. You know who Janeway is. You know who Dal and Murph. Rock They're all different. So you know that when you're watching something, there's no confusion about which officer is this, which character is this. So I think that's really, really smart how they approach that, and also for a young adult audience that they all were different. They all looked different.
Yes,
in every possible way. So I thought that was important. Now I'm going to ask you a question here for you and the audience, and maybe this is, is it fair to say that the voice actors are their characters?
After watching this segment, I am much more inclined to say yes. This is the stuff that really sells the Blu-ray for me. This is the stuff I really like.
Okay.
I loved the interviews with Brett Gray and talking about Dal, and the fact that his certain mannerisms became a part of Dal in the animation, like his raised eyebrows when he gets excited, because he, has he likes to have fun and he has enthusiasm. That was really cool. I enjoyed that. And things like the fact that 200 people auditioned for Gwen.
I know, right?
Whoa. Okay. That's a lengthy audition process for one character. But what really struck me with all of these characters was the fact that when we heard audition audio, and we didn't for everybody, I wish we would have, but for those that we had, and especially for Gwen, the actors who did get the parts, they read with these characters so fully formed and ready to go, which makes sense for animation because you really don't have time to find your footing and whatnot. Your characters do grow, but you have to have a really strong starting point. Because as we've talked about in previous things, the animation is just, it has to be perfect or it doesn't happen. And so, I mean, you hear Ella's voice, she's Gwen from the get-go.
Yeah. Yeah, they are... for all intents and purposes, using a colloquialism, fully baked characters, coming right out of their vocal performances. It's unfortunate, who is, available for what and when they're doing a lot of these interviews, because obviously having Brett there and just seeing how Brett is animated and his reaction during the interviews, you can see like why they chose to really synergize like him and the character in animation. And I'm wondering if that's the same for everybody, because we didn't get a chance to see Ella in the interview. We just heard her, her audition
audio. Yeah.
But we did see Jason on Mantzoukas,
yes.
And you can hear it. You can hear it in his voice. He's not on as Jankum Pod, not the way that Brett is on as Dal. It's his voice, right? For the most part. But you can hear every once in a while, you kind of, in Jason Mantzoukas' voice, you can hear a little bit of that growl, a little bit of that, raspiness of Jankum Pods.
Yeah. When he gets a little more animated, it comes out.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And I love your comment that his hair is so Jankum Pog.
It really is. I mean, he maybe he is embodying or embracing his inner Tellarite, for that particular interview. Next time we see him, he'll probably have his hair slicked back and clean shaven or something like that. I don't know.
Just to spite everybody, especially us.
But I'll tell you what, for the actor who probably just, melted my heart immediately when I heard her talking about, her, audition process and how they created the character around her, was Riley and for Rock Talk.
Yeah, of course.
Having her audition at 8 and getting the part at 8 and having that true childlike innocence like in her voice, because she is that age and because Rock Talk is that age.
Yeah.
Perfect. It's absolutely perfect. Right.
I did not realize that she was that young when she auditioned, but she's like, what, 10 now? So, yeah. Yeah. And she's incredibly well spoken for somebody of her age. Wow.
And it will be interesting to see how as her voice matures, will Rock's writing and her characterizations mature alongside Riley?
I would have to think so.
Yeah. So it's kind of like you're watching both of them kind of like grow up in front of you, at the same time. And I think that's smart because it's kind of like the Harry Potter effect. Harry Potter, it like struck an audience at a certain age group in general, like not everybody. Of course, you're going to have extremes on either side of the fence with the ages. But for the most part, though, there's going to be a certain age group that's going to grow with this series,
Right.
And
they're going to grow up with her.
And exactly, especially with her since she's the youngest, but has undergone some very kind of dire moments where she had to mature and learn and grow, probably more so than she should have. And that's covered in these first 10 episodes. That was in Time and Mock. Now, I was really sad that they couldn't bring on the trained voice walrus seal actor for Murph. I was bummed. I know Kevin Hagen was bummed.
This was terribly interesting to me. The fact that Murph's sound is based off of a walrus. And so help me, if there's any audition footage of D. Bradley Baker doing these things, like they describe how he's doing all sorts of weird things with his face to make these sound effects. If we could see that somehow, I would give you even more money. It sounds like a hoot. We've got to see it.
I mean, I have to believe that there's probably some digital enhancement going on, but for the most part, when you get like an actual credit, you're doing the work, right? You're putting in the performance, and some of these voice actors. I mean, they really put their talent, which is in their voice and their throat and in the musculature. They put it through some abuse in order to get that performance, because there's that old adage, pain is temporary, but film is forever. Right. Yeah.
And so will Murph.
Mm-hmm. Now, here's a daunting challenge, Char. So if you're a voice talent search agent, and you were given 3 words: androgynous, youthful, and otherworldly, how do you go about trying to find that person that's right for Zero?
Yeah. What does that mean? And it's great that they got Angus, because that definitely fits a Medusan mentality and existence. But trying to find people who understand that and can express it, I have no idea. Yeah. It's a good thing I'm not a casting agent. I don't know if I could do it.
Well, so that's an interesting thing about this whole segment. You get somebody who like walks in and just knocks it out of the park, without even, I wouldn't say without even trying, but it's just like, that's the right fit immediately. And that's great, And it does sound like when the Hagemans heard the right sound, it was an absolute hit. Yeah. Like, okay, that's it. Mm-hmm. That's our, that's our Dal, or that's our Murph, or that's Zero. And I love how Angus describes Zero as a Medusan who enunciates, but with no breath. Right. So you don't hear a lot of heavy, like deep sighs or deep breathing in or out, or expressing oneself the way that, say, a Dal, like Dal always goes, or Jankum, they always have that kind of sigh. Definitely Jankum. But Zero does not. Yeah, which is super interesting and really impressive to hear. Yeah. And then, of course, one question I have. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. Is for as many people that auditioned for Gwen, how many auditioned for Zero, I wonder? We did not get an answer to that, so I'm curious now. So anyone out there who is listening to this show, let us know. Go to ML_Prodigy at Twitter, and or here in the comments on the Roddenberry Entertainment channel here for the YouTube show, and let us know, because we would love to know. Please. If there was like a lot of competition, little competition, or if Angus just stepped up and said, nope, I'm Zero. In Zero kind of way. Right. Again, embodying the character. Exactly. Now, this I know, Char, as you're a huge Voyager fan and a huge Janeway fan. When you heard that Kate was coming back in a form or another as Captain Janeway, and now we know that it's Admiral Janeway as well. How did you feel about hearing her for the first time? Oh, I was very excited.
I started watching Prodigy mostly just out of wanting to see what they were doing with the Janeway character on the show. I had no idea we were going to totally fall in love with the show and geek out about it, and it would just be an incredible, intricate piece of art. I thought, oh, this is just an animated kids show. It's going to be really cute, and Captain Janeway is going to be like Miss Frizzle. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to appreciate that, but it turned out to be way more than that.
Right.
Nevertheless, hearing Kate's voice one more time in Star Trek, oh, of course, that was great.
Yeah.
Of course it was. And hearing from her in the extras that this was a very joyous and enjoyable experience for her was really great to hear, just because live action working 14 hours a day on Voyager was grueling work.
I bet. Yeah.
She more than paid her dues. She deserves to have some fun.
I like that we saw or heard a little bit more of like her experience as a television actor from a live action production versus kind of the care that she was able to give vocal, like the vocal quality to hologram Janeway, because she wasn't under that kind of pressure of a 12 to 14 hour day. And I also like the perspective that she shares about how this show is important. It's important for children, how we should treat children with the intelligence that they deserve.
Yes.
There was just this, I almost felt like I was getting like the Janeway mentorship, from her interview, because I haven't really seen a lot of her interviews before. And now knowing a little bit more about Kate as the person versus, say, now how she applies, her talents and her, her attitude now towards this character, it's almost heartwarming to hear that there's so much care behind the scenes, especially from kind of like their anchor, for the series.
Certainly. Well, and seek out interviews with Kate Mulgrew, because she's incredibly well-spoken, of course, beyond intelligent, super well-read. She'll talk to you about anything, and it's going to be interesting. You're going to be captivated. You will want to know everything and everything she has to say. She's wonderful.
Yeah. So that kind of concludes that wonderfully long segment. Again, it's 28 and a half minutes long. You get to learn just enough, but obviously we want to learn more about, the voice actors.
Yes, please. That's the hope, though, right? This is episodes 1 through 10. We know we have another disc coming. Right.
Yeah. And so everyone go out there and go and buy this disc, because it shows CBS that, their products are selling.
We want it.
Now, if after you have to make a fair criticism about two particular characters and character voice actors that we didn't get in this interview, we didn't get John Noble, who is the diviner. Obviously, he's very important in the first 10 episodes. Also is Dreadnought, played by acted by Jimmy Simpson. So, we got everybody else represented here except for those two. So hopefully, they'll be available in some way, shape, or form for the next installment of this collector set version 2. But now
I've looked at your notes. I peeked, and we both have like little wish lists for what we hope will be in disc 2. That's one of those things.
For sure. Yes, we are going to get to that, because unfortunately, there is a glaring omission that both Char and I agreed on, and we'd like to comment on that, but that's going to be, just a little bit later in the show. We're going to get into the Protostar section now, which is about 13, a little over 13 and a half minutes. And it starts off with Ben Ebon kind of talking about the Protostar and the different parts of the ship, and why it was important for certain sections to be designed in certain ways. So this was broken up into these categories. You have the USS Protostar itself, the bridge, the transporter room, the cargo bay and hangar, crew quarters, engineering and warp core, holodeck, and nacelles. Now, we don't have to get into every single one of these things, but if there's anything that really stuck out to you from a design standpoint, or from what Ben was saying, or from what his design team was saying, what did you pick up from this?
Oh, golly. Well, first and foremost, some of these sections are very short.
Yeah.
Noticeably short, like a minute long. So yeah, we're probably not going to cover every little thing, but there's some really good stuff here. Like the fact, I love that Jack Rossi talked about the LCARS displays and how, things are wrong on the Protostar when the lights are off. In the bridge, it looks so completely lifeless. And then when they come back on, and it comes back to life, and it really is a distinct difference. And I think when we're watching the show, we are absorbing that. But the fact that he's pointing that out it really gets you going a little bit. Also, the fact that everybody faces forward on the bridge, very intentional, so that everybody's equally important, as it was put.
Yeah, one thing that I forgot to mention in the Protostar pack, and then but I can reference it here, is that Ben was very hands-on from the ground level in designing the characters and why the characters looked a certain way, focusing on, as you said, Char, focusing on the eyes, the attention to emotions, and the attention to making sure that the characters, they related to the audience in very specific ways. And I think that that's how he approached designing the Protostar, he and his team, because I did also focus on the bridge detail that he said, I wanted all the characters to face forward, that they're all experiencing the exact same point of view at the exact same time as we were watching them. Because in the originals, in so many of the series, there are a handful of stations that face forward, and then there are a handful of stations around the bridge that are facing away. You're sitting towards your console and you're not sitting towards the actual view screen. And because the Protostar is so small and the dome of the bridge is so large, you can see all of that happening. It's almost kind of like you're seeing the eyeball of the Protostar, right? And the detail that's going on inside the eyeball of the Protostar.
And again, that open canopy is intentional. Some of the other ships have a view screen. No, we want to see the vast color palette streaking by as they're proto-warping away. And you can only do that when you basically have a giant window to look through.
Right. Yeah. Just like the old adage, the eye is the window to the soul, so is the canopy the window to the Protostar, right?
Yeah, indeed. Very much. One thing I appreciated as a Voyager fan was, I think it was Gus Mendonca talking about how a lot of their designs were inspired by Voyager, kind of using that as their North Star. But of course, they had to put their own spin on it and give it like a little bit more of an advanced look because some time has passed. And it was great. As a Voyager fan, I definitely see it and appreciate it.
Well, I think that the Jack Rossi and Gus and like all of the people that were designing kind of like the smaller elements that add to the overall detail of the world building of this series. I think that Voyager fans in particular were probably looking at the natural extension of the technology. What did the phasers look like? What did the tricorders look like? But at the same time, because they designed this as an NX class ship, it's NX class equipment as well. And it allows you for a little bit of a grace between, okay, it's not exactly what you saw. It fits the aesthetic of the show a little bit better, but most importantly, it helps tell the story in the best way possible, right? For its crew.
Yes. One of the coolest things that I learned from this segment, I didn't know this, and maybe you did, and I just was oblivious, but the fact that they built from basically the inside out, the design of the ship.
From the warp core out.
Yeah. Like, duh. Yeah, we've seen it, but it had to be pointed out like that was intentionally done. Plus, it gives like this sort of NX charm to the ship because you see things like there's parts sticking out and stuff like that. It's not completely refined and glossy looking as as say Voyager was when it debuted as an Intrepid class.
Yeah, and we'll see if those... I can't get into that right now. Maybe that's a spoiler. So,
okay.
Right.
Let's not do that then.
They had some really nice segment bits on, say, like the transporter room, how the kids are learning how transporters work, how the food replicator works. But going back to like the Protostar and the way that it houses like an actual Protostar energy source as its primary systems like fuel. That when Rock said a baby star, she was so excited and so just beside herself. I was like, that's literally one of my favorite lines like in all of Prodigy. I just had to kind of segue away from the technical stuff for a second because that is literally so cute.
It totally is.
But going back to the engine room and the nacelles and why the Protostar is designed the way it is, Dan and Kevin on the show, they're saying, well, we wanted to make something that was interesting if it were going to become a toy. So there's
gotta think about that.
Right. There's that dimension to, okay, so it's great. Obviously, the third nacelle has a narrative purpose, but it also has let's make it as a cool toy possibility purpose as well, right?
Right. So you need moving parts.
Right. You have to have moving parts. You have to have like the extendo third engine to make it go fast, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
I also appreciated the fact that they gave Gwen her heirloom simply because it was going to be a cool action figure feature.
Right.
And as they noted in the special feature, typically female action figures don't sell as well, which is a shame. And so you've got to give her the cool stuff.
Right. No, that's true. And as someone who's lived like a lifelong career of spending my parents' money on action figures, when for going all the way back to the Star Wars generation, which basically created like, or I should say, refined kind of like the marketing for action figures to young men, boys and young men from 1978-ish on. For Star Wars, it was really like one action figure for girls, and that was Princess Leia.
Right.
Like in G.I. Joe at the beginning, there was like one action figure for girls, and that was Scarlet. Of course, there were extensions, of the fact, but overall, 99.9%, of the designs and all the different variations of the action figures were for that one side of the
boys. Yeah.
The audience
they were the ones who were buying
customers.
them, allegedly. Although I would counter that in the 90s, I was buying action figures.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
but yeah,
I have a feeling Gwen might have more success, both because of her heirloom, but also things have changed a little, and she's a very important part of the story. You can't have an ensemble without Gwen.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that her being there as part of like the original offerings of the action figures, which will be coming soon, I thought that was very smart. And we will definitely get to that when they are released. But in terms of action figures, toys, etc., this is where we get to like the last part of disc 2 special features. We have gadgets and gear, which is about a little over 17 minutes 25 seconds. And this is where I think a lot of the designers had a lot of fun, because this is kind of like where not only the design work happens for the show, and like I said, is building out all these great through lines from the Voyager era to now, but you can also see these as the next generation, pardon the pun, of what's going to be sold for collectibles, right?
Right.
Because that's what I want.
Toys. That's what we want.
Yeah. So
definitely.
In this breakdown, we have Trek gadgets and gear overall. We have the Runaway, which is the
cool
really cool car thing. Gwen's heirloom, as you mentioned, tricorders and phasers of this particular series design, the hologram in terms of just the deck and hologram technology, the vehicle replicator, which ends up being super important in the series, the food replicator, how many versions of tomato soup can you make, and
oh my gosh, okay.
Technology.
Side note, I've got to push some love out there for the Voyager clips that they put in here.
Right.
Because there's occasionally like a little dig on Voyager every now and then, like its endless supply of shuttles and this clip of everybody using the tricorder and caretaker, all 14 of them. Like, I see what you're doing there. I get it. I'm laughing.
We made special mention of that when we were covering that on Mission Log for the podcast.
Yeah. Well, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, everyone gets a tricorder. It's
like everybody pulls out their phone.
That's a good point. A good comparison. But I think that the big takeaways here that I think are significant to Prodigy itself, the Runaway, which is it's a kind of like their dune buggy, their 24th century dune buggy that really only makes a handful of appearances, early on, especially in this first 10 episodes.
Yeah, it's not much, but the content, like I really enjoyed this segment of things. Gus Mendonca gives you some great details about how this came to be, and you can see some sketches as he's talking about the evolution of the vehicle. That's really cool. I love that this design basically came to be because of his dog.
Yeah,
that's and an animal about to pounce, and that is what it looks like, and that's so genius.
Mm-hmm.
That was so cool.
I like his enthusiasm for just wanting to design the coolest stuff ever, because he was inspired by seeing the coolest stuff ever watching the original series.
The technology, really cool. As we call it.
That's just super. It's super exciting to have someone so passionate. They're all so passionate behind the scenes. You can tell.
Totally. It's great to see that they love what they do.
Let's see. The tricorders and phasers, I thought they were really nice. I thought that the design work on those were neat to kind of like see the upgrade on kind of like standard Starfleet technology. But the big thing here is the vehicle replicator. The vehicle replicator plays a super huge role in this series. But you're right. It's also kind of a little bit of a dig on Voyager, because it would have been really helpful if they had this out in the Delta Quadrant when they were lost to begin with.
Certainly, which I have to think in my headcanon is the reason why they developed the vehicle replicator, so that should another ship be in a position like Voyager ever again, they don't have that problem.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
he can make one at will. Chakotay can wreck them all if he needs to.
We're definitely going to talk about the vehicle replicator in context when we get to see the next 10 episodes for the next, installment of the DVD, the Blu-ray.
Oh, yeah.
So that pretty much covers the bulk of what's going on with the special features. And again, we just really touched kind of the surface on a very few things. There's so much in there to really sink your teeth into. But on disc 1, and I wanted to finish up kind of like our review segment here, in the episode Kobayashi, there's an actual special feature featuring why Kobayashi was so special.
Yeah.
And why this particular episode was kind of like called out for a special features segment. The big thing that I came away with from that was the Hagemans praising Aaron Walke's passion for this particular episode. And he was in charge of finding all of Spock's dialogue that either was applicable for or all of it in general, because that's maybe the way that Aaron works, so that he could tell the best story possible for this episode.
Yeah. If you didn't know that already, Aaron Walke is a huge Star Trek fan and took on that monumental task to make Kobayashi happen, essentially. Yeah. It takes somebody who's really passionate, loves what they do, to be able to go through that and to know, all right, he says this in this episode and made it all work. But that's why we have an Aaron Walke.
Yeah. And we'll talk about his contribution in this, in the back half of the season when we get to the second volume with the episode All the World's a Stage, which is kind of like his...
I can't wait.
Which is his another love letter, to the original series. So overall, though, again, it advertised as 75 plus minutes of bonus feature footage, and we get a little over 77 minutes, which I think is fantastic. And it just scratches the surface of, again, like all of the things that you could have put in here, or may continue on to the next volume. They may have already gotten as much as they could and said well, I can't put all our eggs in one basket. But there are some things, Char, that we definitely wanted to get on this particular first DVD. And you and I think, both have one particular note that we share.
Yes. And I have a feeling this is going to be on the next disc, and that is a segment about the music. An interview with Nami about that process. Sorely missed here, but I hope it's coming.
Yeah, that's a big part of Prodigy, and why I feel that this is overall successful as a series, because everything, especially the music, they're all standout elements that all come together in their own way, but the music plays such a huge part for me as just helping drive the emotional beats of the story and helping you focus on certain scenes or certain pieces of action or resolution. And we had Nami on. She was our first interview for Prodigy, many moons ago, before the big break, even actually before the second break. So we're going to have her back, or we definitely have an open invitation for her to come back and talk about the series in total, season 1 as a series in total. But I really do wish that there was some snippet of her, of an interview, of something. Because in my opinion, she's a very definite, significant part of why I think this series, and especially I know that Michael Giacchino, he does the opening theme, but it's Nami's her score that holds the structure together within the actual episode itself. So
definitely. You know what, though, for as good as episodes 1 and 10 are, I have a feeling they're saving this feature for the second disc, because what she does with the second half of the episodes is a whole other level.
Yeah, you're right.
She gets but massive range of things to do. And of course, in that very last, not the very last, but in the scene in Supernova, the one we're talking about?
Know the one.
That breaks our heart every time we're going to watch it.
Yep.
That is just such an incredible piece of music to bring it all together and just make you cry.
Well, speaking of Supernova, there are a couple of things that are actually also available aside from the DVD set, and it's nice to see that there's some of kind of like the product, manufacturing and availability that's starting to roll out during the first quarter of this year so far. Now we got the DVD set that came out on January. I got mine January 13th, I think it was.
Yeah,
somewhere around there. But also, like just right behind that, like I said, speaking of Supernova, I have something here, Char, that I'm going to tease out for our next episode.
Ooh.
Which is this book called Supernova, which is a young adult book. It's about 140 some odd pages long, large font, and I think it's definitely geared towards a certain age group for Prodigy. That Nickelodeon YA group. I think that's anywhere between like 12 to 16 years old.
Yeah.
There are 2 books out right now. One's called Supernova, which is written by Rob Perlman, #1 New York Times bestselling author.
Hey.
According to the disc, the Dust Jacket. And the other book is called A Dangerous Trade, written by Cassandra Rose Clark. And we are going to be reviewing these for upcoming episodes of Mission Log Prodigy and see exactly how these stories fit into the general storyline and tapestry of the season that we've seen so far, and if there are any tidbits to be learned.
Yes. Also, there is a game called Supernova.
Yes, there is.
That's already out.
Supernova, it's kind of funny. There was like a trifecta of the Supernova name. You have the season finale, then you have the video game, which is on Switch, and I think it's on Stream and that kind of, those streaming platforms. And then you also have this book. So we'll see what these are all about. We're starting to get some nice, trickle down effect with products that are rolling out. Of course, if you go to StarTrek.com, there's a whole store there of, some basic mugs and posters and T-shirts, et cetera, et cetera. But we as fans want the hardcore stuff. We want we want the action, the away team gear. We want the tricorders and the phasers and everything that we can do to run around with our cosplay, all that stuff. Right? Yeah,
all of it.
Anything in particular that you really, really want? Like if you had your druthers and you say like, what, if I could just have this materialize like right now, what would it be? Something realistic, not like an actual living Murph.
Oh, yeah. Murph plushie, maybe.
Murph plushie would be nice. Sure.
Yeah. Those came out, at New York Comic Con? We've not seen them since. Nah. That's a dirty old shame, I got to say.
Yeah.
Honestly, you know what I really want for my room is a big Prodigy poster.
Okay.
To go with some of the other posters that I have. One's of Babylon 5 as Doctor Who, both of which you gave me.
Oh, that would be the Prodigy poster would look nice next to those. Sure.
Right? Yeah. I think I need that.
Maybe
I could probably
something along the lines that looks like this key art on the DVD set. That is nice.
Yes.
It is nice.
I think, if it's out there, I need to get it. And if it's not out there, I need it.
It's been the longest time since I bought a poster, for any of the Star Trek series, or movies. But because of, you want to like brighten up your day. You want to walk by something, before you go to work, and it'll cheer you up and, inspire you. I can see that happening. I can see that happening with that poster.
Right. Like right before we record, I could look at that and just get in the mode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. It'll be super interesting to see like a wall dedicated to every season of Prodigy that gets released and how the characters change over time. And we could say, look at Rock, she was such a baby.
Honestly, I want to do that with all of the shows that are going right now. The Picard season 2 poster was great. Lower Decks does fantastic artwork for its season themes. I don't have enough wall space for it all, though, if I'm being honest. Now, what about you, though? What is that one thing that you would throw any amount of money for if you could get it?
Okay, so there was a company a long time ago called Quantum Mechanics. I'm not sure if they're still out there. I think they might be, but I know that their products are still kind of floating around the eBay or secondary market space. But they came out with these scale models of exacting detail of starships. And there is one of, and I know that this Doug Drexler, I think he was in charge of helping either design it for this scale, or he signed off on it, for its authenticity and attention to detail and exacting specifications. But it was displayed on a mirror stand, or there's a mirror underneath it, so you can see all of the detail, the way that you would say, like, see detailed in like a European cathedral. So you don't have to crane your neck around the ship to see it. It was actually mounted on a stand that was mounted on a mirror table. Right.
Cool.
Yeah. So when all the lights were on, like, all of that was reflected. Now, that's what I would like to have, a version of that. That's the protostar.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right, marketers, we've given you our wish list. Make it happen.
But I'll take like a Play School or a Galoob or a Hasbro or Mattel, what have you. I'll take that version of protostar, because as Star Trek fans, we're always about our ships, right? And that ship, we all know who the characters are, but all those characters are housed and protected and nurtured and defended, and sheltered by their ship, right?
Yes.
So, and the protostar is more than a ship. And I love how they treated the protostar as being another member of the crew, as a character.
Certainly, she was.
And that's what I want. I want to have the protostar somewhere in my room, just so that I can have those adventures and pick it up and make believe.
We've got to have that. We've got to have the action figures. We're grown adults, but we would still play with them.
Yeah. Just
as much as the kids.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I'm a little jealous that, there's the whole segment of a new audience of younger fans are going to get some of the greatest stuff coming up. I have no doubt that whatever's coming up for Prodigy, like I said, whether it's kind of like play stuff toys for your, away team missions, and that stuff is going to be great. It's going to be awesome. And I can't wait until those things roll out. So until then, though, we're going to try and do our best to cover everything as they are released. And we just teased a couple books that we're going to be getting to. Hopefully the action figures that have been also advertised are going to be coming out soon, but you'll be able to hear all about them here on this show. Yep.
Yes, we will show up. We will buy all that merch. We'll tell you all about it and why you should buy it too. Mm-hmm. And if you've enjoyed this show, please make sure that you do the like and the sharing and the subscribing to all of our stuff. If you're on YouTube, do that on the Mission Log Roddenberry Entertainment YouTube channel, or the Mission Log Prodigy as a podcast. Subscribe and share with your friends. Tell them all about it, and they can catch up in this interim period. Mission Log Prodigy is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment. Production and technical direction is by the fantastic Earl Green. And our website, your opportunity to comment and connect with us, is at missionlogpodcast.com. And if you want to support Mission Log directly, you can do so at patreon.com/missionlog.
Well, we hope you all enjoyed our review here for this DVD set, and thank you all for taking the time to be with us, even though that we're in between seasons. It's tears.
I know.
Right. Rest assured that Char and I are working on more plans to bring you more content, whether it is interviews or whether it's going to be more product features and reviews.
Merch.
We're going to do our very best to fill that time with content that's worth your time, and that's something that we definitely want to enjoy also in creating for you, so that we can all share that Prodigy enthusiasm as we wait for season 2, because it's going to be here before you know it. Just keep your fingers crossed.
We hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so.
We're huge optimists when it comes to that.
And in the meantime, I'm hoping that this will tide us over doing the show, but then also if watching and hearing us will tide you over too.
Absolutely. And again, if this is the first time you've caught us here on YouTube, we have an entire library of shows that you can catch up on with individual episode reviews and interviews with, the creators, Dan Kevin Hageman, Aaron Waltke, Benny Bon, Nami. So we have a lot of content here. Please enjoy that in this interim period. And until then, thank you for listening, and go boldly and go fast.
This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.